so the obvious idea is to make the most usage out of my dark square bishop. Therefore, g5. My bishop will definitely have a good time on his longest diagonal on the entire board. d4. Bishop g7. Oh no, my pawn. The pawn is dead. c5. Oh no, another pawn. D takes c5. That blunders a rook. Bishop takes b2. And by the way, this king's pawn opening Borg defense Borg gambit is actually one of my favorite openings as black when I was a beginner at chess. And even though now he has knight d2 bishop a1 queen a1 to counter-attack, but it's actually not that obvious for beginners to see. Knight a3. That blunders an entire horsey, but I'll go for queen a5 check. You know what they say. The check, it could be great. c3. Now taking the rook is definitely the best move because queen recaptures can no longer counter-attack on my rook. But due to the challenge's rules, my bishop obviously has more value than his rook. Therefore, I'll take this pawn instead. Queen d2. Aha! Now I can take the rook. I mean, queen trade is actually very bad for me, but he should be able to see that trading queens when being down 5 points in materials is definitely not a great idea. Right? No doubt. But that blunders a horsey. Man, this guy is so weird. He made a perfect long-range discovered bishop attack on the g-pawn in the opening, but then quickly blundered everything else in the very next moves. Queen c1. That blunders a pawn, but of course my queen cannot step out of the light. Therefore, bishop b2. King c2. Very aggressive. That blunders a queen, but let's give a check first. King b1. I have no other choices but to take this queen. Well, maybe he doesn't see that his bishop can go backward. Never mind. a5. Let's try to get this rook active. Knight e2. Aha! Taking this pawn is just provoking bishop e3, which not only attacks the queen, but also prevents rook a7, which is literally the only square that I can move my rook to. Therefore, queen back to g7.
Alright, so what are the goals right now?
Knight f4.
Alright, we're going to Rito place now to get ourselves a nice, lovely horse.
e5. Let's take this pawn first. I mean, taking this rook out is kind of hard, but if he can just resign the game right now when he's already
that would be pretty annoying to deal with.
That would be very convenient. Well, a win is a win.
Waiting for the memories to be unlocked. I guess we'll finish the Hetaido village. It's not like, we'll finish the Heroes Tunic quest for now. Not like it'll affect much. And I doubt it'll be changed all that much. Nor will it be any different in this mod. It's just a fetch, it's just a really long series of fetch quests. I can't believe it took me until like my 4th playthrough to realize the entire fetch quest for the Champion's Tunic is actually really long-winded and maybe even annoying. One could consider. Do I want to open these chests? I'll save them.
So I figured, let's do it again. Pacing isn't as egregious as the others I've spoken about, but I've definitely noticed some misunderstandings about it. Of course, before we get into this conversation, let's establish a baseline definition.
I wonder how many people know about the unique dialogue for this shrine in particular.
It's like a strange concept, as speed feels like a visual concept. You can physically see how fast a car might be moving, but how can you see how fast a story is moving? Speed, as we know it in media, is dictated by the author. Speed equals the case. Let's get a little more specific. In My Hero Academia, every single arc takes place in the first half of slowly, except for kind of Vilhelm. While this might seem slow in the grand scheme of, well, time, it doesn't necessarily equate to a slow speed or bad pacing. It also doesn't mean that one piece is badly paced for being 1,000 chapters. What matters, wise, are the events that take place within. Pacing is determined by the length of these events, how fast the action moves, how quickly the reader is provided with info, and much more. Hearing this, you might think, oh, well, if fast pace sounds great on paper, but the truth is that it's heavily dependent on the story. Authors use pacing to affect the mood, ideas, and themes of the story, as well as allowing readers to connect to the characters and by proxy, the events that surround them. An author might feather the breakthrough story, much needed characterization, world building, or establishing future plotlines, while another author could slam on the gas to hit a climax of the story. Each story utilizes pacing differently, and as usual, we'll be using My Hero Academia as an example. However, there is one disclaimer to this. However, some people on Twitter might tell you, like there are almost no objective take when it comes to fiction, so people running around posting this fucking insufferable sign online are just being annoying. People's pacing likes and dislikes obviously differ, so everything beyond this point will be my subjective opinion on good and bad pacing. If you find the pacing bad or you still enjoy it, that's totally fine. I'll be using two examples from My Hero Academia's most recent arcs to judge what is, in my opinion, good pacing and bad pacing. We'll be examining the Paranormal Liberation War arc and then the Villain Hunt arc. See where I find these two arcs either succeed or fail. I believe overall that the Paranormal Liberation War arc is an example of good pacing. Good pacing to me is a cohesive balance between fast and slow. Too slow and some readers might become uninterested. Too fast and readers might struggle to build investment in your story and characters. And I think PLW is a great balance. Well, like 90% of it. The majority of the Shigaraki fight, while highly action-packed and intense, is actually pretty balanced. There are high-intensity moments, as well as slower, more methodical, character-defining, and thoughtful sections, like when the action is broken up by Shigaraki.
I have fairies now,
we see this arc regularly,
so I can worry less, but like,
slow down the pacing just a touch. Like when
obviously I still need to be very, very careful.
Put down Shigaraki right now, no matter what happens to him. The arc also makes good use of focus shifts to secondary subplots in order to not outpace itself. The Gigantomachia vs. Yue fight and the Toga vs. Chaco fight are simultaneously breather moments without negatively affecting the pacing. This might have felt a tad rough on a weekly read, but in the grand scheme of the arc, which in my opinion is how arcs should be judged, it slows down the story by drawing us away from the main conflict with Shigaraki while still giving us content we're interested in. After the Yue kids attempt to stop Makia, we step on the gas again with a high-intensity clash with Shigaraki after Midori goes Gran Torino. Lots of action and not a lot of dialogue, followed by the Flood flashback chapter and Bakugo chapter. 284 and 285 are used to slow down the fight just a touch, using flashbacks and character introspection as a method to do so. Deku decides to beat Shigaraki no matter what, and Bakugo reflects on his relationship with Deku. The story feathers the brakes a bit more by having the dialogue and exposition.
It should be a bit safer for me to try wind bombing now.
However, does not make these chapters weak by any
I'll go watch a wind bomb tutorial later. Get her to read up on knowledge before trying, right?
Now, unfortunately, after 290 is when the pacing of not only PLW, but of FBJ kind of falls apart. Dabi has a climactic character moment followed by rapid-paced, back-to-back plotline resolutions. Best Genius returns to the
hello there! What the fuck?
Chapters. Like the Bakugo moment, there isn't anything inherently wrong with these moments in a vacuum. The problem is, stories do not exist in vacuums. The fast-paced nature of the ending of this arc led to the cheapening of the moments before it, or the reveals that took place after it. My Hero Academia has always been a character-driven series and lends itself to a slower pace. The series loves taking its time and slowly boiling to climactic moments. Progression goes on after the same arc is established is very uncharacteristic of MHA, as the series is known for what they would call, quote, unimportant fluff. These moments happening in rapid succession, however, weakens the character moments, growth or arcs we expected to see, and hastily ties them up in a way
MHA isn't.
These rapid rate resolutions lessen the impact of many of the individual moments, as it doesn't give the audience or the characters any time to digest and react to the events beforehand. Now this time, it also
I will take you alive.
MHA's unimportant fluff is used to build a tension and stakes. Using the plot as an example, Shigaraki didn't wake up immediately. Instead, we had 4 chapters of downtime and digestion before Shigaraki's awakening.
What?
Villain Hunt is the arc that, in my opinion, unless I'm forgetting something, has the worst pacing of the entire series. It absolutely speedruns through plotline resolutions and character moments, leading to an overall unpleasant experience from a pacing perspective. It's an arc that unfortunately fails to deliver on all the themes that I wanted to get into, or rather potentially get into, due to its unnaturally fast speed. Chapter 307 and 308 are a strong and bombastic start with Deku vs. Muscular 2. necessarily too fast. Then, Reunite happens, and we see the aftermath of Deku versus Muscular. Deku in All Might's situation, mid-gauntlet, Deku's arms being fine, Red's Rio being alive, and the top three team up in a single chapter. It was a pretty cool chapter in terms of resolution of things happening, and through 10 use the momentum by ending the just recently introduced conflict of the second and third overall, giving it no time to cook, forcing the jumping. And then there's the God fight, which introduces another of the one-for-all quirks, showing us that we have one left to learn, even though it's been a handful of chapters. Overall, Deku versus the God is well-paced, and then she explodes for some reason, which introduces a reveal of Opalwood's hideout, which we instantly teleport from the fight to.
I thought that.
When the mansion exploded, all of the characters teleport out of the mansion in the following chapter, only giving dialogue how they escaped, and we get only 2 chapters containing near panels of Deku's solo journey, showing us at his absolute rock bottom, even at All Might, until the kids come back and save him in a few chapters, including Bakugo's momentous apology scene, that the established drama between All Might and Deku is resolved in a single page, and then Deku takes a bath and he feels good. Deku began his solo journey, had his ideology tested along with multiple plot-like resolutions, isolated himself from everyone, was apologized by Bakugo, was brought back with 4 hasty resolutions, and ended his solo journey all within 20 chapters. Now, the main thing with Villain Hunt is that most of these scenes in a vacuum are not a problem. The problem lies in the speed at which they are delivered and how much movie they really have. Horikoshi is generally a writer that utilizes a slow burn, so taking a step back and seeing all these events unfold so quickly makes it feel uncharacteristic. Conflict with the second and third users is the best example of this. They were seemingly introduced as a roadblock to show us that Deku might be their trust, or else he can't access their quirks, which could improve with the final going forward. There was a sense of potential urgency, but it was simply a result of the chapters that didn't have any of Deku's input at all, and a few pages of dialogue. Chapter 317 was supposed to represent Deku at his absolute rock bottom, the culmination of all Deku's flaws, but building in the steam in this story's single chapter, instead of giving Deku time to reflect on the things he has gone through.
Yeah. Crushers are absolutely useless weapons. At least the low tier Lionel Crushers. But man, fighting them sucks. I can't get any slime. You slime.
Pacing is subjective, not objective in any way. Something, and I hope I was able to demonstrate that I find it pacing, and what pacing even is. Like arguing on Twitter, or
ow.
Plan on doing.
Who? What shot me? Ooh, sword soul. What the heck just shot me? But yeah, my defense seems pretty good now. Obviously, Hinox attacks and Guardians will still suck, but at least the normal mooks won't be an absolute threat now.
I'm gonna help you out real quick, Ocean Man. So, you know, 'cause someone might say, well, wait a second. There were like 4 Nomu there, and so everyone had a Nomu to hit, so we needed Mirio to punch that Nomu. But I don't know if you've checked this. I mean, you reread the article, but Edgeworth has 2 hits. And so, with her spiral power, she could have shot the other Nomu. So no, he did not have to be there. And I double-checked. When she hits the one Nomu, she does it with one hand. So you can't even argue, oh, but she needs to charge it up. That's like the most petty thing someone could bring up, but I would bring it up if I was right. So I'm gonna take it down real quick. He did not need to be here. So, okay. So, for your fans who don't know, I adore Eri. She is my second favorite character in all of MHA. There are personal reasons for that, but I also relate to Deku. I relate to Deku a lot in terms of how I see myself. And I think peak MHA is everything having to do with Eri and Deku in the overhaul climax and the Culture Festival climax. If you're gonna do what does it mean to be a hero, there is nothing better than dedicating time to the slow girl and helping her through saving her physically, saving her mentally. Her quirk is incredibly relevant to the idea that Deku is a character who has to break his body in order to save others. And this time the person he's trying to save wants to save him, and so they create a perpetual motion machine where sky's the limit, and now he no longer has any boundaries or anything to worry about, and he can go all out to save her, while she tries to save him because both of them have powers that hurt each other or hurt others, but this time it's the perfect sync. Incredible. Incredible. I love it. But my problem with the Eri thing is that we climaxed on those perfectly. We had a perfect climax for Overhaul, we had a perfect climax for the Culture Festival for Eri. So now we just simply had to get Mirio his powers back. And I know that there was a bit of a disagreement between us at first, but I think you've come around to understanding my point of view, is that you kind of had thought like, oh, maybe Eri should go through like another period of, not darkness, but just kind of like being really upset about the fact that she can't like heal Mirio and trying to overcome that. And I disagree, because I think that we already established that. And one, all the scenes where she feels guilty, and two, the wonderful scene after Joy Training, where she's like, oh, you know, I can't use my power, and, you know, I wish I never had this work, it just makes trouble for everybody. And Deku, in a moment of growth for him, because he was not able to do this for Kota, he wanted All Might to speak to the little kid. He gets down, he looks her in the eye, and he's like, Eri, your power's sick! You saved my life! You're the best! And also, it's like a knife or something, you know? Like, you just gotta learn how to use it, and you're gonna get there, kid, because I need to learn how to do that too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Deku, the greatest character ever made. We'll get to him. So you have that, and that's when Eri's like, okay, I will. So then you have the Santa Claus, you have Eri Claus, you know, you have the Christmas party, and you see her being more confident, more happy. And then you have, I think there's one other scene where you see her, and she just looks more happy. Oh, in this arc itself, you see the scene where she's playing like Cat's Cradle with Mirio, and Aizawa remembers her. So you can see that she's becoming happy. My thing is just simply, I just want to see the positive progress. I don't need an arc, I just want to see what's happening. And instead what happened was Mirio comes back, we get a page and a half where he says like, hey Eri, I know you've gotten like good at your power or whatever, mind helping me out? And then we just get this small panel. It's not like a spread, it's not a whole page, it's just this panel tucked away that's just like her smiling. And yes, the smile was wonderful. I love it. I love that she looks confident, she's got tears in her eyes. But I wanted to see the journey. Right? I wanted to see her get there. It makes me mad because he started it. He started it with the Joy Training scene. He had the Christmas party. He has all the build up from everything in Overhaul. And he was just like, I mean, you know what's gonna happen, so here it is. I'm like, no, I wanted to see it.
Again, it just feels like checking boxes. It feels sterile. It feels like Hori just looking at a list of plot threads he wants to like have resolved in this story and in this arc, and going, okay, let me give him Mirio, and let me now give him the scene where he gets his quirk back, so we can list that up. And it just feels so wrong for the character.
Like it felt insulting to me. It felt like you're like, you love Eri, Ian. Sucks to suck. It's done. And I'm like, no, let me see it.
I cannot believe Koi Horikoshi specifically made that chapter to spite Ian Waffles.
To make me sad, to make me cry, and be like, no, I wanted to cry happiness. You're making me cry at you for being a jerk, Horikoshi. Why'd you do this to me? And what makes me more mad is on my reread when Lemillion came back, when it first happened, I was like, ooh, Horikoshi, you better not screw this up. And then he screwed it up and I was mad. What made me more mad is he came back with his stupid happy smile, and he's like, ha ha ha, guys, I'm silly and the best guy ever. I'm like, dang it, Mirio, you're the best guy ever. I hate you. But it's like, I love these characters, and he's done such a good job up to this point. To see him not capitalize on their arcs is like so. And I feel like this is the only time he's ever done this.
Yeah.
Like, can you think of any other time where it's been this egregious?
No, this definitely is an outlier, and I'm actually super interested to find out. Like, we're probably gonna find out in like the next 2-3 volumes what was happening in Hori's life as he was writing this, and I'm interested to find out if there was anything, because this feels super out of character for him. Like, yeah, it just because the bottom line is he took two incredibly popular characters and just kind of wasted them. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, you can't.
I want to try wind bombing.
Even if he tries,
Yeah, he just has to start a new arc with them. Yeah.
Yeah, even if he tries to show us the journey, in post, it's just not the same.
It's the Momo problem that I talked about, where, like, sure, I can, like, instead of me being like, oh my gosh, this amazing moment, I'll be like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which I don't want.
Yeah, it's not going to be build up. It's going to be an excuse and
Lots of you asked for a wind bomb tutorial. I did say no because there's lots of details I'm not sure about, but I figured I'd tell you the one wind bomb that I know best. The way I do it is to use the ledge wind bomb. You get close to the ledge where Link can jump into bullet time and aim in the direction that you want to go with weapon throw or a bow. Make sure you have a round bomb selected in the Sheikah slate. Hold ZL. Very quickly jump forward, drop the bomb, go into bullet time, and hold the rune change. The buttons are up X, L, ZR. Hold D-pad up to pause. You can probably practice this a few times to get the rhythm. So when you're comfortable and you're at this point, switch the Sheikah slate to the square bomb. Let go of D-pad up. Press L to drop the bomb, then hold D-pad up again. Now switch to the round bomb, then blow it up. And that's a wind bomb. Also, putting the camera up before exploding the round bomb will help. If you have some questions, feel...
Alright, so I need to be facing a cardinal direction. That's an important thing, apparently. Kakariko is this direction. This would be the fastest. Alright, start with the square bomb. Circle bomb, I mean. Fuck! I already fucked it up. Whatever. Maybe I can still try. I wasn't supposed to. Never mind. I just wasted stamina. Alright, let's trot our way to...
Hey Hoodlands, did you realize that swift carrots are kind of rare? You can also have them somewhat removed from Steve's garden at Kakariko. But first, today let's learn what they're used for and where to get those rare items. If you don't know me, I'm Nico and I like trying to find everything in Zelda games. So if you need help doing or finding anything, I hope you consider subscribing or at least checking out the channel. There are 3 things you may need swift carrots for. First, we'll mention a small side
I'm sick and tired of running away from you, sons of bitches.
Not right in this house. Talk to Coco and she'll ask for 1 swift carrot for the dish. Scroll up to one of the locations in the video and buy one right in the store next to the lot. Honestly, she could have just asked you for money to buy it herself. Speaking of, swift carrots will give Link speed boost. If not that effective, you need 5 just to reach level 2, and each one could last for 1 minute. My favorite for speed boost is Leaf Lotus Seeds. Check the card in the corner, link in the description, on the Leaf Lotus Seeds.
Ah, get Hinox not waking up.
Upgrades. Both the sand and snow boots.
Oh shit.
Carrots for their second upgrade. These boots are very useful.
Speak of the devil.
For refined swift carrots, I already said they are rare. There's a spot on Satori Mountain that has each plant. There are only 5 swift carrots there. Yes, there are swift carrots in Steve's garden in Kakariko, but you can't
Okay,
just
things aren't going well anymore.
retext if you try to. What you can do is have your horse eat them for no reason except for your own entertainment. There are chances for carrots to
I'm
drop
hurt, Reed.
crates and all the
I lost a lot.
But truthfully, the most consistent place to
But as
farm
long as
is
I
for
have my
vegetable
life,
flour, and
I'm
that's in the general
fine.
store by the cooking pot in Kakariko. You can buy 12 at a time, and remember that all stores restock at midnight. You just have to mark the location when the day passes. Go far, sit until the next day, then you can buy more. I mentioned earlier that Blue Lotus Seeds are my favorite 4 speed boost dishes, but I have an ultimate guide on making the best dishes in Breath of the Wild and find the materials here in this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to get this far. I hope you consider subscribing or at least checking out the channel. Thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you next time!
Since I can't teleport willy-nilly, I had to use the horse. Alright, time to do the infamous shrine. Flag.
Hi, Ribbit. Frogs in Breath of the Wild are special. Not that special, but they do have decent uses. Today, we'll learn exactly what they do, what they're used for, and where to find them. If you don't know me, I'm Nico, and I help basically find everything in Zelda games. If you want more Zelda content like this, I hope you consider subscribing, or at least checking out the channel.
It's a little
First,
safer
let's
to
talk
try it
cooking.
here,
You cook
so...
the frogs into elixirs, which means you'd have to cook them with a monster part. Five-footed frogs give you speed boost, and tireless frogs give you temporary stamina. You can get level 3 speed boost with 4 frogs, and each frog cooked gives the dish 1 minute duration. You can also add a dragon horn to make the dish last 30 minutes. If you want to know the best way to farm horns, check the link in the description. For tireless frogs, each one cooked will give Link 4 hearts and 20% of a temporary stamina wheel. So cooking 4 frogs only allows Link to get 80% of 1 temporary stamina wheel. If you want 2 full temporary stamina wheels, you need to cook 5 Endora carrots. If you want to know where to find Endora carrots, you can check the card in the corner or the link in the description. And there's a small reason you may need hot-footed frogs, and that's for a small side quest in Zora's Domain. After defeating the Divine Beast, then talking to Thor quest to be completed. Talk to Tumbo during the day and he'll ask for 5 hot-footed frogs. He'll then give you an armory. For farming frogs, you should know that you can farm both frogs in the same place, but tireless frogs usually appear only if it's raining. There are some decent specific places to farm them, but there are actually better places than what's shown in an object map. But first, the decent places in the object map, and I'll explain what else you can farm in those locations. If you go to the Horse Ferry, you'll find 10 frogs, but you can also get some butterflies. Another good place is in the northern east of the Sahara. There's some frogs, and it's a great place to get some complete lotus seeds. Next, let's
Well,
take
that
a
was
trip
just
to
pathetic.
Laruda. If you drop right to the east of Laruda, you'll find a good spot for some frogs and bright-eyed crabs.
A blood moon.
Then if you go back to Laruda, go north.
Time to stall it.
With more frogs. Before I show you the
I
place
don't want
like
to get
go,
rid of
there's
my
one place
souls
that's
just yet.
interesting. And that, of course,
How do I
is
get those
Satori
red
Mountain.
star
If you go to the
thingies?
Mutao Lake, while the mountain is glowing, there are 20 frogs and literally a whole bunch of other stuff.
That I can sacrifice.
Now for the place I like to
To
go,
keep my
it is
souls.
the Lanero Wetlands. For whatever reason, the object map doesn't show this location, but the frogs keep coming non-stop. If you want tireless frogs, you can sit until it rains. If you feel like you farmed enough frogs, or you feel like the wetland is running out of frogs, just travel back to the shrine and all the frogs will respawn, and you can farm 4 more. If you didn't know, frogs are not the only material that twitches when hit. Lizards do it too. If you're curious about what each lizard does and where to find them, you can check out this video. Thanks for watching, hope you liked the video, give it a thumbs up if so, and I'll see you next time!
It's going
Right.
to be an excuse.
Let's see here. Weapons, blah blah blah. souls and red stars can be bought from Kelton. Otherwise, you just get red stars from drops, from enemy drops, and it's apparently really rare. Well, shit, I'll need to go to Akala. Oh well, it was fun to have them while it lasted.
An explanation, right?
And yeah, and explanations are supposed to be sterile. Like, you know, they're supposed to be like, it's supposed to be, you know, you have 1,000,000%, and then you have the doctor be like, alright, so all it is just like hysterical strength, blah 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 blah, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I still keep my emotional moment from the hype, but now, like, logically, when I reread it, I don't have to be like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, they explained it. You know? Like, that's what that's for, you know? Not for a very important character climaxes to their arcs, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's like I said on Twitter, it's like Eri, save Eri arc, like in terms of like her as a person. Save Eri arc, 10 out of 10. Save Eri's heart, 10 out of 10. Help Eri become more confident in herself, 7. Because he did so well with the joint training scene. The Christmas scene was great. He just had to show it. And for anyone who's asking, like, well, how would he fit into the chapter? Wouldn't it have been the same problem you talked about, like, where it's like going back and explaining it? This is literally all I probably would have wanted. Give me a page where all it is you have Mirio. He says, okay, I've seen your progress. Flashback in the flashback or whatever. But whatever. You know, flashback in the flashback. You see, and all we have to do is Eri tries to use her power and fails. And Mirio's like, oh man, she's gonna be real upset. And she goes, did you see that? Did you see? I almost got it. You know, it's like Deku said, it's like a knife. I'm getting better. I'm making food. And he's like, haha, funny. And then, you know, it's like, you know what, Eri, you're gonna do it. And she smiles. Like, if you had shown me that, and then make the panel where she grabs his face, make that a spread. I honestly feel like if you would have done that, I feel like I would have been happy. I feel like I would have been like, oh, I could have done with more, but I feel like that would have bumped it 2 points. Just literally, because what I want is a story, not a checklist. It's like you said. Yeah, it feels like his return was a checklist. If you gave me a story, that little story of just like, Eri's gonna be sad. Oh, she's happy. She wants to do better. And now I've seen that you've done better. Whoa! Spread. The spread tells you this is important. But the way it was handled, with the way that Mirio comes in and he's like, well, it's not like I can do anything. And then you have Eri being a tiny panel. It genuinely feels like Horikoshi didn't think it was that important. Because if it was, you would have made it like he made the Jiro thing a spread. Mm-hmm. And that's my one holdout. That's my one holdout, is that we've been seeing a lot that Horikoshi will go back and make scenes that he thinks he didn't do as good of a job on more impactful. Like in the original manga, the Jiro picture was just like half a page and there were panels all over it. In the manga, he made it a perfect spread. In this arc, Aizawa, whenever he's thinking about all the kids, it's just a normal page and there's a few other panels, but then in the volume, it's one big spread of just Aizawa. So if he goes back and he makes the... I don't even need him to extend it. I want him to. I don't think this will fix it, but this will make it at least a little better. If he at least just makes that Eri panel a spread, I can at least be like, you screwed up, I don't like it, but my heart sure is pounding, because that little girl's adorable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much hope I have for that, because for me, the amount of stuff he would have to add for it to be okay to me, I don't think...
No, I'm not saying it'd be okay. I'm just saying that I would feel it and I'd be like, dang it, Horikoshi, no. But I'd still be like, no, give me more.
Yeah. Like, it's just so
Where can I
unfortunate.
find
But
the
again,
Naruto armor?
I think what pisses me off more than anything, more than the execution, is just he did it for
These are
no
expensive.
reason. Like, it didn't... The payoff isn't worth it. Like, Mirio's presence in this arc is negligible. He doesn't do anything. He punches a Nomu. He, has one cool moment where we see him from Spinner's perspective, and it's like, oh my god, this guy is unstoppable.
Yeah, he's gonna kill us.
Yeah, like, that's cool, but was it worth it wasting 2 phenomenal characters? No. Just, no.
Was it? Yeah, it was, because, and like I said, like, I feel like, no matter what, like, when I reread MHA, like, the way it works is that the arcs they had before, like, those don't get ruined. But the, like Mirio saving Eri and doing all the stuff he did in Overhaul, that doesn't change, because the climax of that is him saying, I'll wait. But the I'll wait arc is ruined, Or like Eri, like the save Eri and make Eri smile, those two like don't go away because those don't have anything to
No
do with
thanks,
Eri
though.
finds confidence. Those are just
Your
saving her as a
shit's
person, helping her do
expensive.
all that stuff. Blah blah
Alright, so
blah.
apparently
But
there's
the,
one
like,
right
get
in-
Eri her confidence and using her quirk, that has been ruined, I think. Because even if you explain it afterwards, the emotional climax just won't be there. Yeah. So, because I just wanted to clarify, because you said,
family
like,
who owns the
I
farm
know
up
what you
the
mean,
hill.
because you're like, he wasted two phenomenal characters, and I just wanted to clarify, I don't think that means, like, oh, now everything before is bad, like, before this arc
No,
started,
of course not. Like, their previous moments are always going to be good, but now, I'm a man who lives in the now. Now, whenever I
I
get
can't
something,
actually
I
use the dice
I
shop.
just get angry.
Oh well.
Yeah.
So, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, moving on though, because we have spent a decent bit of time on this specific part. I think the last really what do you call it? Really problematic aspect of the arc, in my opinion, is the way it ends. As in, not necessarily the on paper, here's how it ends, but again, the structure of how that ending is reached. And I'm just gonna start off by saying, I think this arc should have ended with Dabi's speech, because everything afterwards has felt really weird and really just half-baked, not properly developed. And the best example is Mirio and Eri, but also Mr. Compress's whole deal is baffling to me, because I don't hate it, I like it, there's stuff in it that I like, but I can't figure out what the point was, really. Because it's kind of a big thing, him being the third legacy villain, the one that we hadn't seen yet.
But why should I care now?
Exactly.
Right now.
And then it doesn't, lead into anything. It's just...
No.
He just kind of dies.
Well, he's alive, but yeah. Because I got him on the stretcher, so to me that was oh, he lived. Maybe he could die, but to me it's one of those things where it's like, Horikoshi, if you kill him, I want you to understand that the only person who heard him say that is Dabi. And unless Dabi is gonna be like, man, my boy Compress, I'm gonna learn his whole backstory, I'm gonna write a song about him, I'm gonna make a video for him, and I'm gonna post it online and roast his entire lineage. Unless that happens, you have no way to go back to that plot line, and then that means you've wasted it,
Yeah, and I think that's my biggest problem with the way this arc ends. There's just so much happening at once, and none of it feels like it's given enough meat. Compress just kind of happens and doesn't matter afterwards. Then we have Deku unlocking his fourth quirk, which is
and it's just kind of oh, and then moving on.
yeah, and it's Danger Sense in of itself is a cool idea, and I would like to have that explored properly more, but man, does it just kind of come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, because think about this, if you, think about 20%. When 20% happens, you remember that because it's Night Eye just got stabbed, Deku, or, Mirio's on the end or whatever, he can't do anything, and then it's Overhaul's coming for us, and he's a villain who can literally regenerate and kill us in one hit. So what do? And so he sends all the spikes, and then you just have this amazing shot of Deku stomping the ground, and everything moves up. You're what is going on? It's one for all, 20%. You're oh my gosh! But and then we do something with it, right? Because then he tries to use it, and then we have all this buildup of oh man, he's getting in, he's gonna do it, and then Overhaul counters him, and it's sorry buddy, you're just not as good as everybody. Die. Boom! And you're no! What are we gonna do? So it feels like that last bit of hope, and then it gets snuffed out, and then you're oh no, what are we gonna do? But whereas with all this stuff, it just feels hey, here's the new quirk. That's weird. What's Todoroki doing? Because that's literally what he does.
Yeah, no, totally.
And float, he gets float, and it's whoa, it's float, and then it's flashback that's mostly about Bakugo, and then when we come back, it's mostly about Deku's self-sacrifice. It really has nothing to do with dude, look how cool float is. So when I remember 20%, I remember the moment. It's also so I remember that moment, but when I think of if someone was oh, Danger Sense or whatever, it's did that happen? I think it was sometime in the War Arc. You're not gonna remember, the moment,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was given less time than Float, because at least with Float, I feel the one thing you could remember from it is the one-shot.
Yeah, definitely. With Danger Sense,
You'll remember that.
Yeah, with Danger Sense, it's literally just Deku going, oh, so that's what all the headaches I've been having are. It's like...
That most people didn't catch were headaches.
Yeah, and it's like, man... I've said it multiple times on various different platforms, but I am really falling out of love with the Six Quirks. Yeah, I just don't think it's used very well at this point. Like, we're halfway, right? He has 3 new quirks. We're halfway. And honestly, I can't say I've been totally satisfied with any of them. Like,
No, me neither.
Black Whip, I think, had the best introduction, just because it felt right.
Because it focused on it, and it like Deku reacts to it being like, all my training has been worthless. I just wanted to make sure people weren't sad about me. Now everything's getting worse. Gosh, freaking dang it, no!
Yeah.
Like, it's a big deal, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
But in this, it's just like, you're gonna get flowed, he gets flowed, move on.
Yeah. And like, even Black Whip, as strong as introduction is, I just don't like how it's handled for the most part.
We just kind of skim past it
Yeah.
in the Endeavor Agency because that arc is an Endeavor arc disguised as a training arc.
Yeah, pretty much, it's actually spot on. Is there anything else you want to mention about structure before we move on to some more positives? AKA
Yeah, I was gonna say,
characters?
Because that's the funny thing is that we went through all this. I know we talked for a long time, but I was noticing like every time we'd mention a negative, we'd be like, "But man, did he nail it here?" So like that's kind of the thing with this arc is like I give it like a confident 8 because I'm like these problems, while I do really dislike them, they don't feel like I don't feel like doom and gloom yet. Like for the series of like, oh man, Horikoshi's fallen. You know, like oh no, like what's he gonna do? It just feels like it just feels like, dude, come on, like, did you have to, like, make these things, these big reveals, instead of, like, building to it, like you always did? So, but yeah, I legitimately don't have anything else really to say, unless you do.
No, I think from here on out, I'm probably going to be completely positive, because you mentioned everything that pissed me off.
Oh wait, there's one more negative thing. Wait, for, Ida. Can I just do this?
Oh,
I don't think you care one way or the other.
You're the Ida man. Let's go.
Yes, okay, so, Ida. Love Ida. I've always defended up till now that Ida has not been wasted, because the idea with Ida is that it's similar to, it's how MHA always does its characters, he rotates them out. So Ida got a whole arc dedicated to him, and not only did he get an arc though, he got a direction. So he ends the arc being like, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. I'm gonna focus on rescue, I'm gonna focus on being a better leader, I'm going to understand that people have feelings and are not robots like me, and he's gonna do that, and he's like, I'm gonna run towards saving people. And through the story, we then have Kamino. He's very integral there. If he did not stop Deku, Deku would have ran out and got killed. He's there to, and he also saves Todoroki as well. He's there to help them make that escape. He's there as this really nice emotional anchor. Great. Then we go to provisional license exam. He leads Aoyama. He's a leader. He, instead of back during the test where he ran away from Deku whenever the 0-pointer came, because what would a 0-pointer do for me? He gave up the idea that he would get a hero license so that he could run around the whole arena to make sure everyone got it before him. Great. That's an extension of his character. Boom. Next arc. Overhaul arc. Bakugo and Todoroki got sidelined. They're the 2 of the most popular characters. So to me, I'm just like, whenever Ida gets a scene where he's like, hey man, I'm your friend, if you need me, this, and this, and that helps Deku, and then you cap off that arc with him coming in being like, hey guys, you give them their space, they've been emotionally traumatized or whatever, and then Deku is able to confidently say to Ida, who is worried about him, hey, I'm gonna be okay. And he's like, yes, I was worried about you. And it's great. And then finally, in Joint Training Arc, he gets a whole section dedicated to himself in that we see his power increase. You get to be like, oh man, that dude, he tore out his engines? It's like basically like tearing out nails. Oh my gosh, Ida. And then he comes in and he rules that battle. So to me, Ida's never been wasted. It's just simply that he got his arc finished before everybody else. This arc, he was wasted. Like, and I feel like you can't argue with that, because here's what I always say about characters being
Never
wasted.
tried this
you
route
can't waste
before.
a character who's not there. So, like, you can't say, like, during the Overhaul arc, like, man, Hagakure, Invisible Girl, she was pretty wasted. She's not there, Or, like, Todoroki was pretty wasted. He's not there. There are reasons he's not there. You can want him to be there, but I feel like structurally and from a writing perspective, there's no reason to say, like, wow, they wasted that character. Here's how you waste Ida in this arc. Ida comes in. We have a section where he's like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna help. He's even in that big spread where it's like, here's all the characters who are coming in to do stuff. And then, what does he do? he grabs Bakugo. Oh, great, he's gonna save Bakugo because he's learned that the rescue takes priority. But the plot says that Bakugo needs to stay here. So, instead of running, he listens to Dabi's speech. That's not good. Well, okay, it was off-panel. It's kind of something where you'll only notice it if you think about it, so, okay, but he's gonna do something. He's gonna save someone, right? What does he do? He puts Bakugo down, and then he goes to kick a Nomu instead of saving someone. Don't like that really well. And then he's like, Bakugo, didn't I say not to move? It's like, idiot, you were supposed to go and save him. And then you finish off the thing with him in the background, fighting high-end Nomus. And then it's just over. That was what he did. Ida showed up, he was in the cool spread, he had a cool shot where he like T-posed, or he dabbed. He dabbed whenever he came in to save Todoroki. Love it. Love you, Ida. But otherwise, it's the Mirio effect. He comes in, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna do stuff. And he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything but fight monsters that none of us care about.
Yeah, I definitely agree there.
And in a moment, that's a Bakugo moment, by the way. Like, that spread is about Bakugo, and then everyone else is there to be like, yeah, heroes. But that's not about Ida. So I 100% think that Ida was wasted this arc. I think he got the girls in overhaul treatment. You know?
Yeah, I have to concur, because honestly, when you said you wanted to talk about Ida in this arc, I couldn't even remember what he did, so... And I reread the arc today.
What he did was disappoint me. And I still love the guy, but it made me really sad that, like, dang, enjoy, like, for now, because you're, like you said, it's in the moment. For now, if I go back and reread Joint Training, it's still gonna be great, but when I read it earlier this month, I was like, man, I can't wait till in the war arc, whenever this pays off of him being like, oh, the rescue takes priority. Didn't do that. So now whenever I read that, I'm just like, this is a cool Ida moment. I like that he's putting it to task right here, but it sucks that he doesn't do it later. And so it's not gonna feel, it's that build-up thing. To me, I thought that was build-up for the war arc, but it didn't go anywhere. Now, could Ida do a lot during the post-war? Of course. But in the war arc, I think you have to say that he was wasted.
Yeah, after you've laid this out, I would have to agree. As I said, I don't remember him at all in this arc, which probably is as strong of a statement as I can give. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to saying nice things about Hori again. You wanna go?
Heck yeah. Yeah, so actually, so I made a tier list, and I don't know if you want to put it in the video at any point, but I made a tier list for me personally of like all the characters who, not cameos, so like Eri doesn't count, or like Mushroom Girl, characters who were just like, oh, they're there. But like characters who actually did something and had any amount of focus. I made a tier list of like how much I enjoyed their presence. So we have like S tier, which is like above and beyond my expectations. I never thought they would do this. We have the A tier, which is like they're awesome and they resonate. It's like, oh my gosh, this is why I love MHA. You have B tier, which is I salute you, which means that, dang, that character did it good. I like that character. C tier, which is they did their job, which is basically just like they exist in the arc. They didn't offend me or anything because I know like what else were they gonna do. And, you know, when I see him, I'm like, hey, it's that guy. But, you know, no strong feelings one way or the other. And then D tier, which is housed by Mirio and Ida, which is why are you here?
Okay, so if you consented to be real quick so I can look at it while we talk, that'd be also great.
Yeah, so there's the list. I sent it to you. So, and I think you said for the most part you agree, aside from like one person. And again, the way this is organized, it's not like, oh, Mina is my favorite B tier character. These are just the characters as I saw them.
Yeah.
So let's start with C tier. So Gigantomachia. I know he's not really like a person, obviously, but I thought Horikoshi did a really good job of paying off the introduction we had with him during Overhaul, where he destroys a mountain. When you see like that rip he's making through the cities, you see all the people, especially in the most recent chapter, 296, when you see all the people crushed into rubble and all these things, when you see him like in the background is like Uraraka and Tsuyu are trying to save people. When you see like during the Toga fight, like you always see like rumble, like in these dark rooms, it's like, oh man, like he's shaking the ground. Like when he's on screen, he has a presence. And I also just really like that, like the goofier aspect of it, like when he falls into the Mudman's the hole or whatever, and he's like, ooh, and he just looks a bit scared for a second, like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah, totally. And I do think Gigantomachia, I kind of don't even look at him as a character anymore. I look at him as like a tension tube, because those panels, the ones that we got about him rummaging through cities, were some of them were harrowing, like double spread of like just a quiet city with him in the background approaching. That was some good shit, and I really think Ori did capitalize very well on like that aspect of this calamity. Like, I think C did their job is perfectly adequate for him because really I didn't need any characterization out of him. Like, I don't really care much if we get something down the line where he's like, I don't know, Crimson Riot or whatever.
He's Crimson Riot.
Yeah. Like, if that happens, that'll be cool, but for now, he did his job and I'm perfectly happy with him. He's a good boy. Good dog.
And it's a good long-term payoff. I'm glad that Horikoshi really paid that off. The only thing he hasn't paid off with him is his armor that he wears, that we see in the background sometimes. He didn't use that this arc, so that really makes me more hopeful for Denrat, but, we'll see.
Yeah.
So next on the list we have Ryukyu. Now, Ryukyu is a character who, I talk about how there are characters who work at, like, a deficit. So, like, for example, my friend Trey, he hates Bakugo. Like, hates him so much. And he can acknowledge all the scenes that are good about him. But he's like, but that character made such a horrible first impression that it's not that he's working his way to be a character I like. He's working his way to be a character that I am neutral towards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that happens a lot with characters where, like, with MHA's characters of like, oh, it's this character, oh, their design is so cool, what are they gonna do? And then they do nothing. I feel like Ryukyu had that during the Overhaul arc, where I went from being like, oh, who's this dragon lady? And then she's just kind of around, she didn't really do anything, there's nothing that memorable. But this arc, I genuinely thought it boosted her back up to, hey, when I see Ryukyu, and I like reread like the top 10, I'm gonna be like, hey, good for Ryukyu. Because she is responsible for Aizawa knowing to cut off his leg. She is responsible for capturing Shigaraki and holding him back. She takes so many hits and still continues to get back up. I think he ripped off her hand. And so it just really felt like she put in work, and there was plenty of times where she went down and I was like, yep, that's Ryukyu for you, useless. But she continued to do stuff the whole fight, and I was very happy for that. To where now when I look at her, my eyes don't glaze over. I was like, good job, Ryukyu. You actually, like, if you did not say what you said, Aizawa loses his quirk. If you did not do what you do, the characters die much quicker, or we don't have time to stop them. So I like that. And she's a big dragon, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I definitely think one thing that I always like about MHA, right, is that the adults feel very competent. Like, 99% of the time, the pro heroes feel like pros. And that is something, maybe it's because I grew up with Naruto, but in my head, I've lodged this impression of shonen anime where the kids are the people who have to deal with everything and the adults are kind of whatever, right? They're incompetent or absent, because that's very much what Naruto is for a long time. And I just always appreciate seeing a competent adult in MHA, and Ryukyu is a great example of that. She does her job, she does it well, she, is active on the battlefield, she communicates with her peers, as you pointed out with Aizawa, and that leads to an advantageous position for them in the battle. And I think that is, an admirable piece of the puzzle, of the, arc, right? So, yeah, did her job, C tier, perfectly adequate for me. As I said, I'm gonna say this a lot, because I generally agree with most of this. Looking at it, I think I can find one more character I don't agree with, other than the one you already know about, so we'll see.
Yeah, okay. So next up, Midnight. So, I made this tier list before the recent chapter, where we would confirm that she died. So I would honestly have to put her back up in B, because the thing is, Midnight actually did have quite a few moments that I really liked that characterized her, but since she got kind of just, taken out, and I thought, oh, she's just knocked out, I was like, you did your job. But now that we know she's dead, and that's going to leave a lasting impact on the students, and knowing and taking into context of, oh man, she always had kind of a fun dynamic with All Might, where she'd talk to him and people ooh, are they dating? Blah blah blah. Or she was really confident about Momo, and I thought her best scene and that was during joint training. And she's just been around, you remember her for better or worse, for good reasons or bad reasons. She's the ref during sports festival. So what I really loved about her in this arc was the scene where she talks to Kaminari, and she's like, hey, I understand if you look down on us adults, but don't be scared. Think of it as, you're helping us, you're the competent one, which is great. That's her being no, you're important. But then my favorite thing she did was when she said, hey, if thinking of random civilians does not give you peace of mind or whatever. Think of the person that you most want to help right now. And that helped Kaminari, that put his mind at ease. And I was like, yeah, that's a good teaching moment. And then you have the cool page where she knocks everybody out with her smoke gas. She's leading the charge whenever she's riding on Kamui Woods. And the way she gets taken down is pretty brutal, and I don't mean her getting, like, off-screen killed by a guy jumping on her. I mean that she gets, like, Kamui Woods gets burned to cinders, she launches him into the air, or her into the air, and then she gets hit by rubble and falls, like, 20 feet to the ground, and can't even move. You know?
Yeah. I really think the way Hori handled her death is maybe the most brutal one we've had in MHA, actually, like, if you just think about it, because,
Yeah.
she was immobilized by head trauma, called her students to reassure them and give them a plan for her last moment, then gets murked off screen. Then the student who, you know, reassures her peers about how she's fine is one of the students that has to find her, you know, already cold body, which,
And is holding her hand.
yeah, that is a really harrowing thing for MHA. Like, I would put that, like, it's not as obviously gory or horrible as, for example, the backstory to Shigaraki's family. But
Right.
it's still, like, just thinking about that kind of gives me chills, and it's interesting to see something like that in MHA. So yeah, I agree with bumping her up into B. You know, I don't think she did, like, a phenomenal job at being a presence in the story. She was just really there. But I do think her death definitely catapults her up. Just because having a death this relevant and this brutal in front of the class jokers, nonetheless, you know, Kirishima and Mina. That's some good shit. Like, good on you, Midnight. You kind of had to die, but you know, omelets and all that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think that, I'm definitely gonna, when I do a reread of the whole series, I think I will be paying attention to her more. I'm gonna see, because I know people who genuinely do like her, like, I think I said on Twitter, like, you know, nobody really cares about Midnight for any, wholesome reason. But, you know, her death was really good, and I had a lot of people telling me, like, no, dude, I like Midnight. I'm like, okay, then I want to go back, and when I reread the series, I'm gonna be paying more attention. So, yeah. Next up is Nejire. Nejire is in the same boat as Ryukyu, only a little worse, in the sense of when she is introduced, she is standing there with the big three, like you were supposed to look at Mirio, Tamaki, Nejire as equals. But in the Overhaul arc, as we all know, it's infamous for this, she really gets shafted. She comes into the arc, she throws the big guy into a hole, and that's it. And so nothing about her existence make you think like, yeah, she should be a part of the big three. So I was really happy when in this arc, when it looked like, for one, she gets to be the reason that Shigaraki gets knocked out, along with Shoto, and that was just a cool picture of her being like 100%, just blowing him up. But second, which is just good in terms of like showing her competency. It's like, okay, we want to show that she's really impressive, have her fight the main villain, even if he's weakened, and nuke him, you know, with your full power. But second, I thought it was good that Horikoshi had Dabi hit her, and she goes plus ultra, and she gets up, and you see that she's burnt. Like, you actually see that her body is burning, and I like that she's, like, licking the side of her lip. It looks like she's like, I'm gonna get up, and I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm like, good. You not only did you do a cool thing, so I can buy a little bit, just a little bit, that you're part of the big three, but two, you had a hero moment. You had your little plus ultra moment. You took damage, so I know that, like, you actually got hurt. And so, to me, like, if I were to, like, rearrange this, she's the very bottom of C. Like, she just edged in. But, like I said, she was working at a deficit for me before, now she's working at neutral. If she does anything good going forward, she's building on solid ground on my book.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I also want to just talk about the fact that she does get injured, because Shonen has the tendency of keeping pretty girls pretty. So I do like that she gets injured and she stays injured, and you can visibly see that she is not looking good, but that she's, you know, fighting, she's gritting her teeth, she's actually, you know, putting in the work. I think that's really good on Mori's part. I think it's, you know, even better considering how hard she got shafted in overall. So yeah, I definitely agree with all.
And I also think that this is a sign of, or not this, but something in the recent volume. I think it's like at the very last page. It has like is it Mount Lady or someone else? Oh, or maybe he put up a picture, but it was something like, what's going to happen to... Oh, tune in next volume to see what happens to Nejire's hair in her cheek. And so I'm like, I feel like these scars are actually going to stick. And, it's a big trope in anime that when you cut your hair or something happens to your hair, it signifies a shift.
Yeah.
So I'd be really happy if we get more of Nejire. Go for it.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, she's a fun character. I just, I wish she had more to her character, right? I think Gran Torino we've already covered mostly, yeah.
Covered
That
perfectly, yep, so we can
is
skip it.
the-
Actually, I want you to talk about this next character, because I know that you found kind of a new appreciation for him.
Yeah,
So Spinner.
Spinner really doesn't do much this arc, which is emblematic of his whole position in the story. He doesn't do much, but every time he opens his mouth, and especially on this reread, I noticed, I just like him. Like,
Oops.
something about him is endearing. He's just such a weird cosplaying loser, with an absolute garbage quirk. But he's trying, goddammit. And, it's clear that he is not convinced of what is happening. He's not convinced of, Shigaraki's position anymore. But he knows that if he lets go of that, if he lets go of his belief in Shigaraki, he has nothing left. And so he holds on to that, and I think that that's just cool. That's interesting. And it's kind of admirable that, here where we have
I
Dabi
thought I had an attack. Oh,
Endeavor is summoning the sun, and Shigaraki decaying the ground itself, just have this dumb gecko guy who's like, I'm doing my best, guys. Like, I just love that. And, I don't think I'd put him any higher than C. Maybe B on this reread, now that I've kind of come to like him a bit more. But, like,
did the game really just
I can just
crash?
appreciate him, right? Like, he did his job, he's cool, I find him kind of endearing now. Plus, I have during this pandemic very much dumped myself into the rabbit hole of reptiles, so he gets bonus points for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And I just hope we kind of see more of him, because he does carry a lot of cool potential with him. His quirk could be really cool if it's elaborated on a bit more, and of course, the racism thing is pretty interesting, which unfortunately we have not seen since the beginning of MVA, which is kind of a shame, but we'll see. For now,
I think so continue.
no, I was just gonna say, for now, I think he's where he belongs. Did their job, perhaps I salute, depending on how I feel that day. So yeah.
For me with Spinner, I have loved him since his introduction with his stupid sword. That was the moment I knew he was a cringe lord and I was in love with him. And also just the fact that he saves Deku, and he's like, no, I am sticking to my beliefs. And I love that MVA contextualized those beliefs, that he is an empty person who latches onto anything and will give his all because he just wants to feel something. He just wants to have a purpose, and he just wants to feel like that, that someone out there has inspired him enough, and he will give his all to that person. And I just really like how much he genuinely seems to care about the league, and that doesn't seem
What
to be
the hell
fake.
is
Like,
this?
I don't think that, for example, if he were to meet Stain, that he would so easily switch, because I think he's finally found connections and things that aren't just ideas. And I just really like that. So in this arc, when he talks to Toga, or when he's, whenever he's just like, ha ha ha, we could go underground and we could win, and Compress is like, oh, we can't do that, we die. He's like, oh, right. Like, yeah, he's just a guy. Like, that, there's an, like you said,
Wow.
there's an endearing charm about just, like, some guy who, I'm just here, I'm helping as best I can, and it's good that the story never tries to prop him up as anything more. Like, the story knows that he's just a guy who's a lizard. And I love that I know for forever, people are like, no, he's gotta have a more interesting quirk. It can't just be that he's a lizard. I'm like, no, guys, he needs to just be a lizard, because that's part of the fun, because he's just a lizard man. And then they literally
Hey,
say,
I'm
like,
not
his
going-
quirk,
I'm not-
Gecko,
I'm not
he
gonna
can
risk
maybe kind
going
of stick
there.
to walls. And I'm like, yes!
Yeah, and I mean, as you said it the best way, his character is all about latching on to other people, like a gecko. So, I think that's really cool.
I mean, just with, like, lizards, where it's like you camouflage and you kind of become something, you become your surroundings. That's what he is. So, I love that. So, Spinner, he did his job. There weren't any phenomenal moments for him, but he had all these little moments of just being a cool guy, being Spinner, which I like. So, alright.
He's just vibing, and that's why we love him.
Yeah, someone had to vibe this arc, because everyone else was dying. So, alright. C tier. Now, you have quite a bit of recency negativity towards this character with outside influences and just inside of you just feeling like Ochako Uraraka has not been utilized to her most potential. Honestly, I would not be surprised if you asked why is she here, because a lot of her scenes, at least before this final chapter, a lot of her scenes were there to prop up other characters, and so obviously you can know why they're there, but it sucks when a character kind of just feels like a plot device. So actually, I'll kind of let you talk about this one too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think she fits perfectly and did her job. She did her job as, like, a secondary character, I guess, in helping out with Toga's scene, especially in establishing the devastation at the end of the arc. So, like, from that perspective, I don't think I would bump her down. She did her job. I just wish her job was, more. Because she is the main heroine. Like, I don't get why Hori seems to be so, unsure whether or not to commit to her being the main female lead, because she really realistically is, right? She's introduced to us as, the first girl with a name, which by the rules of manga means that she is the main female heroine, and, we're 6 years into the shebang, and Hori is still flirting with the idea of whether or not to properly commit to characterizing her.
Yeah, it's like I said on Twitter, she is in perpetual half growth.
Yeah.
Or it's not that she doesn't get little climax moments, like she has the Bakugo fight. She has the so for example, for the money thing and trying to prove herself as a good hero, you have the Bakugo fight. Nice little moment. But then after that, you think, oh, so now she's going to try to improve on that, and she kind of does with Gunhead in the Hosu arc, but it's not focused on. It's a little thing. Okay, so but we're gonna continue that. But then we have the crush with Deku. I actually think this is really cute. I have no problems with it. I appreciate how it doesn't actually get in the way of the arc, like I feel like stereotypically it would, where it'd be something like, oh, she can't even fight because, oh, I love Deku. But no, she deals with it. She decides, you know what? The reason I like Deku is because I admire him and I see all these traits, and I want those for myself, so I'm going to try to be a better hero. Awesome, Uraraka, let's do it. But then, we move into Overhaul Arc, so that would have been the place to do it, right? We get to show her being competent the whole time, doing cool stuff, but she kind of gets shafted. She just does a little bit. Okay, but we'll wait. Get to Joint Training Arc. Now it's this idea of who's the hero who saves heroes. Oh man, that's really fascinating. That's so cool. It's like the mental health of heroes. You're a hero who is there for the other heroes, and she wants to be a support hero. So that's kind of adding more depth to it. And we give a little bit of a climax to that with her saving Deku, making sure he doesn't plummet to his death after his black whip goes down, and coming up with the plan to brainwash him and slapping him and trying to get him out of it, and being there to support him and takes down Monoma. Great little moment. Okay, where's that going? Wait a sec, I've checked my watch. We're 217 chapters in. Uh-oh. And now we get to here where we focus on her again, and it's for Toga development, and it's kind of being like, oh, will Uraraka want to save hero or save villains now? Ooh, but it's like Horikoshi, you haven't went all the way with these other things,
Yeah, it's just
Whoops.
with her, it really feels like Hori is just adding character traits without resolving the previous ones. Like because I tweeted about this, I was like, oh, it's unfortunate that the thing about her wanting money hasn't come up in 5 years, and people were like, oh, that's been resolved. No, it hasn't. Like, motherfucker, you're lying to me. It simply hasn't. It's been replaced, but that doesn't mean it's been resolved, satisfyingly, because the thing is, right, in writing, if you give a character an explicit character motivation, that motivation cannot just be a one-time thing. It needs to be perpetual, because a motivation, as we understand it in writing, is a driving force that informs your actions. But Uraraka at this point has, 2 motivations that are never really mentioned in the same context together, even though they kind of should, because, she wants to earn money, but she also wants to earn heroes. How does that synergize? And one of the responses I got a lot was, well, her learning that she wants to help heroes is her looking at her desire for money and thinking that that's inadequate and then moving away from it. And it's like, that's
prove it.
Yeah, that's a very cool character arc you just made up in your head, because it does not happen on paper. Like, you can infer that if you want, but it's flimsy and it's just not very elegant. And elegance, at the end of the day, is the measure by which we determine whether or not, a plot element has been executed well. If it's inelegant, why did you do it like that, right? And with Uraraka, I definitely feel that. It's just, aspects thrown into each other, hoping that we forget about the ones that don't get as much shine, and it's just unfortunate. And again, I wouldn't care as much if she was just a C character, which she kind of is here in C tier, but she is the main heroine. She is part of the idiot
limited
trio.
to just 3
Then again,
fairies.
2 out of the idiot
Yikes.
trio kind of have not been getting a lot of shine lately.
Yeah, Deku was sitting next to Aoyama at the potluck party, so...
Yeah, oh my god, don't get me started on Aoyama though, because I kind of hoped he was gonna get relevant, but
A drill shaft.
nope. Can't have that. It is kind of unfortunate that it seems like this is gonna become the Deku Bakugo Todoroki story, which I'm fine with, but he did spend a long time establishing characters that, you know, I'm kind of attached to now, and I wish I could confidently say we're gonna see more of.
But yeah, I can hope that Ida will get more shine. I feel like Hori, I mean, he has to know that he's popular. He was number 4 in the popularity polls. He's always in like the top 10 or something. But, you know, so he knows that he's there, but it doesn't seem like he really wants to do anything with him right now. So I can hope that he'll come back. But, like you said, in the here and now, it kind of just feels like, Ida's kind of off to the side. We'll give him some Uraraka. We'll give them these little moments, but the long-term payoff might be the end of the series, and I don't really want that. You know, I want them to have another big moment soon. You know, that way I can be like, okay, all that build-up was really important, and we can keep going. But yeah. Real quick, you threw shade at my boy Aoyama, which I don't understand. Aoyama is the GOAT. He's one of the best characters in all of MHA. I love all of his scenes where he's being freaky or weird, and I love everything about the fact that he's like this coward, but he wants to be a hero, and he has like this belt, he has this quirk that hurts his stomach, and then he's just like, oh, you know, I want to be equal with everybody else, but I'm like a coward. I'm hiding in the provisional license exam. Boom, I'm gonna stand out and stuff, and then he ends up saving everybody. He's like, oh my gosh. Then he reaches out to Deku, and he's like, Deku, you and I are similar. He's the best. He's funny. He's cool.
I just really wish that his position in the story didn't boil down to gag character and also a red herring once.
Right.
Because like Deku says that, oh, this is the story of how me and Aoyama became friends, and then that's kind of the end of it.
That only really like matters in the sense of like, oh, the person Deku's dancing with in the culture festival is Aoyama, and he likes that guy. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not opposed to just having these small micro-narratives of friendships forming in the class. I think it makes the class feel more human.
You're just wondering if it's gonna come back, basically.
Well, that, and I also think that Aoyama's little shtick had a bit too much focus on it to just be a micro-narrative. Like,
Just
you know,
never end.
Kaminari and Mineta being friends. That's a micro-narrative, because it doesn't matter, but it's cool to see that these groups are
But Aoyama got a whole chapter dedicated to what's he doing.
He gets a whole, like, volume cliffhanger, pretty much. Like,
yeah, no, you're right.
so, you know, that's a bit, but we're talking
Yeah, like I said, I'm just memeing you. Like, I do love Aoyama, but like, I don't care. if you're like, yeah, I want more from it.
Don't worry, I didn't think I was getting attacked. Don't worry.
We were doing so well, but we were doing so well in our grievances and disagreements, but then you had to bring up Aoyama, and that's just my trigger.
Yes, the point of controversy, the one and only Aoyama.
Watching the stream as Oceans and Ian go from friends to rivals at the drop of Aoyama's name.
Yeah, because of course Aoyama is the most controversial thing about MHA.
About this war arc, and everything.
Yeah. Alright, okay. Do we want to move on to our next guy?
Yeah, let's go to that guy. Do you want me to do it or you?
You can do it. I think I've talked a lot about Uraraka.
So, Mr. Compress was originally my favorite League of Villain member. More than Shigaraki, more than Dabi, more than Toga. Because at the time I was still in my Shigaraki sucks phase, as most people I feel like go through, where there's like, he's a lame villain. And then you're like, oh, that's the point, he's growing, whoa. But Mr. Compress, I just thought he was so funny. I loved that he's like, his whole thing is like, I just sneak away and hide, but I want to brag about it, because I'm a showman. He's great. And then just the fact that Todoroki, who's one of the most overpowered characters in MHA, is like, puts down a kid, shoots the giant, most massive ice wall ever. It's like, oh wait, if you just like jump where it starts, the big giant glacier doesn't touch you. Crazy. Then he just leaves. it's just like, I don't know. I just love his personality. So for him in this arc, he did what he always does, but he got a little bit more. But in terms of what he always does, I love that.
Bullshit.
One, he really seems to like Toga. He likes to be like, oh, little Toga, and he's like, oh, don't jump at me, you'll fluster me.
Mhm.
And then you have the part where like Dobby, being the guy he is, he's like, hey, wait, we're gonna be sneaky and wait for the heroes, and then we'll get them. And then Compress is like, but don't underestimate him. And then Dobby shoots his fire, and he's like, ha, I was right. But then Midnight's still there, and Compress is like, you idiot, you didn't take care of that girl, and then takes her out. It's like, see, I told you not to underestimate heroes, and then Dobby pouts. Like, he's really good at bantering off everybody, especially Dobby. I feel like in NBA, where it's like, I was great at running away, and Dobby's like, you didn't do anything. So Compress was doing his thing for the whole arc, but then, like you said, Horikoshi decided to give him his little moment, and I'm with you. It's like, because I couldn't definitively say it was bad, because, one, the art was fantastic. Like, the shot of him about to throw his marble, and you see, like, the pain on his face, but he's trying to be, like, confident, but it does, because it's not, in My Hero, when people are hurt, they're really hurt, and you can see the pain on their face. They're not cool hurt, like, sexy hurt, like a lot of characters, I feel like, are, where it's like they're bleeding out of their face, but they got a cool smile. It's like, I'm not even hurt. Compress was definitely dying, and very hurt. He's like, I'm gonna put on the best show ever, guys. Oh god, this hurts. And that was great, and that was endearing. But yeah, like I just thought he did his job. I feel like there's a lot of things structurally that he also brings negatively to it, because here's a question. So if he can compress something, if he can compress his whole body, which we know he can do, why didn't he compress his body to get out of the ropes? Now you might say, this was my argument, was like, oh, maybe it's because he needs 2 hands. But Horikoshi doesn't say that. So you have to infer that. So that's the one mental hurdle. It's like, okay, but whatever, I can understand it. It was cool. Rule of cool will allow me to kind of get over it. Moving on. But then he compresses Shigaraki and Spinner, and we see Horikoshi draws like 2 balls. So they went to 2 separate balls, and you're thinking, well, wait a sec. This shows that the wires would go into the ball. So when they come out, how come the wires aren't on them? Okay, but whatever. It's for a cool moment. We'll be fine. We got that cool spread at the end. I'll accept it. Oh, but wait. The next chapter we show that Spinner was taking them off Shigaraki. Okay, so it makes sense. So they do get taken. Fine. Wait a second. Didn't he put them both in separate balls? So, can he compress one ball into another ball, and then he can uncompress the other ball in that ball's sphere? Is that what he did? Wait a sec, how did... What? And so that's 3 strikes and you're out. And that's just one of those things where it's like, sure, I feel all the emotion, and I thought it was great. I already love compress. But the fact that the technicals of it are so obscured and vague, and I have to go through all these mental gymnastics in order to understand it, makes it to where I wanted to give him B, because I wanted to be like, oh my gosh, it was so clever, he had to do it, there's this, and this, the way he did this, and then the emotion behind it in the sense of like just the way his face looks, and he's taking off, he's revealing himself, and he thinks about the league, he loves them, and all that stuff's great, but it really does not hold up well to scrutiny, and I can give you 1 or 2, because I'll do that with any narrative I love. Like, I can allow some suspension of disbelief, but all of those technicals and the fact that Horikoshi never bothered to explain any of that stuff, you just kind of have to assume, I think is a problem. So, bumps him to C.
Yeah, I think Compress really just... He's so weird in this arc. For most of the arc, as you said, I think he's a very nice, person to bounce off of with the League. Like, his banter is top tier with everyone. But then his, reveal kind of happens, and it's sort of cool, but it's also weird and doesn't lead too much, and you mentioned the technical problems. So, yeah, I can't say I have many thoughts on him. Now he's on a stretcher, he's really hurt, and he's gonna do whatever in the next arc. And I just can't get over the fact that we got the 3rd big legacy villain revealed to us in such a nonchalant manner. His reveal... It's so funny to think about that his and Dobby's reveal happened right after another, but Dobby's reveal had 6 years of build-up, Compress's reveal had 2 chapters, which is just odd to think about.
No, it did. Yeah, it's really odd, and I liked the theory I heard, that, because, you know, one of the biggest things with My Villain Academia is, like, what does Compress and Dabi do? Like, Dabi's fights get off screen, and Compress is just kind of around. And, of course, I think Dabi's is fine, because what, were we going to reveal that he's a Todoroki there? Like, it's fine. You know, so his whole point is to just be big and showy and shoot giant fire blasts. The anime will give you a cool fight scene that goes nowhere. Cool, whatever. But Compress, I think that's a legitimate question. What's he doing? And I liked the theory that someone said, which was that maybe this was supposed to be somewhere in that arc? Because think about this. He's a legacy character of this one person, but he's saying that, but he wants to believe that Shigaraki can do it because he's not good enough. And what's Redestro's character? Redestro is a legacy hero who, or a legacy villain who believes that only he needs to be able to lead this movement, and that Shigaraki's in the way, and then learns to have Shigaraki be the embodiment of that. So wouldn't it make more sense to have Compress have that little bit of revelation in there, and as like a build-up to what Redestro's revelation is later? It's like, here's a guy who's already on the team, and he's made this choice and made this decision. He's Team Shigaraki, power of friendship for villains. But instead it's put here, and it feels like, okay, like, that's interesting. What does that have to do with now? You know?
Yeah, it's odd. Like, it's one of those things, again, where I just cannot figure out what Hori was thinking, and I hope it will become clearer in the coming arcs. Yeah.
Todoroki, my boy. Now, he is in C tier. Todoroki, for the record, I like him more than Endeavor. He is like my 4th favorite character. Love him. But in this arc, the most he kind of did was, I appreciate that he was clutch. You know, he's kind of a Gran Torino role. He came in and caught like 6 people at once. Very impressive, my son. And he got to beat up Shigaraki. That's pretty cool. But mostly, poor Todoroki, he's just that Mr. Krabs meme of everything shaking around him and him looking frantically back and forth. Because that's all he does this whole arc. Is like, wait, there's a decay wave. Oh god, my ice wall can't stop it. Wait, Deku and Bakugo, where are you going? Wait, Aizawa just cut off his leg and is gonna die? Oh my gosh, wait, this person's up in the air. What do we do about that? Wait, now everyone's falling. I gotta catch them. Wait, Dabi's my brother.
Yeah, I mean, he does very much
I just feel bad for the kid.
Yeah, but, you know, one thing I do appreciate about how Todoroki is shown in this arc, once the Toya reveal happens, Todoroki is, like, barely keeping it together. Like, you can see he's trying his hardest to, like, remain his usual self of just, you know, kind of fighting and talking smack occasionally, but it just does not convince anyone, the least of them Toya.
Not working.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. But I do agree, like, his presence is very marginal in this arc. Like, the focus is very much...
It's one of those things... Oh, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, the focus is very much on Toya and Endeavor in that situation. Todoroki is kind of there to round out the reaction to it. But I appreciate that, like, he did his job.
And like, he's literally one of the most popular characters, he's one of the most important characters, like, we're gonna focus on it eventually. I'm fine that we didn't stop the story to focus on Endeavor's reaction, Toya's thoughts, and Todoroki, because Todoroki's part of the kids, so we know we're gonna get that. So I have no problem with that being shelved, you know?
Yeah.
Or that he didn't get a big fight or something.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, also, I think with Todoroki, it's one of those things, like, the reason I love the Dabi reveal is because of how much it changes just by implication. And honestly, Todoroki didn't need to have, like, a big moment of, like, him reacting mentally to Toya, because just by implication, you know, holy shit, that must set the boy back quite a bit, both in his own relation to himself and to his father.
And that's when he breaks, too. That's when he starts, like, trying to be the confident leader, like you said, but you see, like, he's crying, and his mouth is quivering and stuff, and he's like, Endeavor, Dad, move, get Midori out of here, I'll do it, you know? And so it's really crazy to think that this is the same character who starts out as the stoic, like, you know, doesn't smile, he's kind of rude, he's standoffish. He literally told a villain, he's like, hey, so, don't know if you knew this, but ice will melt off your body, and if you don't want, you know, or it'll freeze off your body, and you'll go numb and die. Now, I want to be a hero, so if you could just kindly tell me why you want to kill All Might, I'll help you out, dude. Like, that's not that's not good. And now he's at the point where he's like, please, save my friend. I'm gonna do this. And he's crying and he's all emotional and he's like, but Toya, you'll die too. And he's not saying that because he's like, haha, idiot, you're gonna die. He's like, no, brother, I don't want you to die. So I just think, like, I just love Todoroki's story of, because usually with characters like him, they're stoic, and then once they get their arc, they're still stoic, but like, it's like, he smiled that one time. Haha, that's how you know. Todoroki is completely changed.
I think
and that's
Todoroki's
just
characterization is one of those, like, earliest examples of Hori flexing his character abilities. Like, honestly, the moment I fell in love with MHA's character writing is when Todoroki winds up his fire in his fight against Bakugo, but then doesn't do it, because he still is unsure about how he feels about that. That was the moment I realized Hori is for real with this stuff.
Exactly, so I can't wait for more. Now we're in B tier.
Yeah.
So B tier, I have Denki Kaminari. I love Kaminari. I think it's similar to Aoyama, but in this case, Aoyama didn't get like a big payoff in this arc, which I think I would have preferred. But I think if you notice, every character who's not like one of the big ones, like Bakugo, Todoroki, Deku, everyone who's like starts out the series is just like, that's the idiot, that's the girl with big boobs, that's the Birdman, that's the funny guy. All of these characters, like, they've been slowly building up. So obviously Momo's been getting focus consistently throughout the whole series. Tokoyami, it's always like, his character is less about like being a person and just more about like, he's the cool Birdman with the overpowered quirk, and we watch him get better at that. Kirishima, he was there at USJ and we saw him with everybody, and he gets more character. And finally, Kaminari. Kaminari is a character who consistently gets these little moments, and he has a thing that you can track, which is that he overuses his quirk and he goes dumb. Haha, isn't that funny? Then we get to Provisional License Exam, where he not only recognizes Bakugo as a hero, when he was the first person to be like, dude, you're not trying to be a hero, you're a steam turd, whatever. And, and it's funny that he will talk smack to Bakugo, and all these things. So you've built up this reputation with this character and given him all these little moments, and then you capitalize it on with this beautiful page of him pointing into a panel that has like the electricity, and then you have like him as the center point, and you follow him as like a lightning rod that you follow down the page as he thinks about Jiro, who we know he likes and he's built a connection with, not only as a friend, but you can slowly, it's not just like he immediately is like, oh, that's a cute girl. So like when he thinks back to the person he most wants to help, you feel that whenever he does his power, you're like, yes, look how far he's come, he can take that many volts, look at him. And just, I love the scene where we see all the way back in Culture Festival, which is something we didn't know before, where, this is a big thing about Kaminari. He's the friendship boy. He is like one of the few power of friendship boys, because everybody else is like hero, right? But he is a friendship boy. He loves friends, he loves hanging out with people, he loves making sure they feel good, and just, it feels like Jiro, where it's like this mundane thing of just like, he cut his hand on the guitar, and which is a thing you do when you're learning guitar for the first time. He's like, no, I'm gonna learn this because Jiro, that silly girl, she thinks she doesn't love music, but I'm gonna do my best for her. And I'm like, dude, I love this guy. And I just love that he gets this big moment in this war arc where it's like, yes, all that development was going somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy.
Yeah, I love Kaminari, and I wish he got more to do, because I love lightning uses, but I also think his character is so interesting, in that, he's not a profound personality, but he's really, really nice, despite, him being a bit of a weirdo at times. And B, he is really observant, which is something that's really funny because it's never pointed out, but when you think about it, he's the first one to call out Bakugo for, basically just being full of bravado and nothing else. He's the first one to do that in the story. He is also the one who points out that Jiro is suppressing her love of music, and that she's, being flustered for no reason. So it's interesting to have this character have this consistent, trait that is never focused on, but is just there, and I appreciate that. And this arc, that is maybe not the focus, it's just something that came to my mind right now, but I do agree that him having his moment and, absorbing the lightning and thinking of Jiro is just, more good stuff on a character that I'm always happy to see get some shine. So, B, I salute him, definitely.
Yeah, and it's a moment, it's a moment where, it's like you said, it's memorable, to where, if he doesn't do anything for a while, you still know that, he was integral to the war. If he didn't do that, all those people get hit. you know, and then who knows what transpires from there. Also, one last thing he had that was great is that he subconsciously, without knowing it, hold a Mirio speech where when Momo's like, we need to do this, you know, I'm sorry if none of you want to fight, and then Kaminari goes, what are you talking about? We got our powers, we got our capes, that's all we need, we're heroes. I'm like, yes! Like, because that's what Mirio said, where it's like, when we go into the streets and we have our capes, we're heroes. So I'm just like, man, good boy, I love him. So, next up is Present Mike. I'll let you talk about Present Mike. I don't know what you think about him, actually.
I actually, for the longest time, was convinced he was a traitor, funnily enough.
Because he brought it up?
Yeah, he brought it up, and he just seemed weird compared to everyone else. But I think now I realize it's just that he's a weirdo. I don't think it has anything to do with him conspiring, and especially in this arc. Yeah, like especially in this arc, it kind of stops making sense for him to be the traitor because, you know, his rage at Dr. Garaki is very, very genuine, and I thought that was a very strong moment. Like, I think him and Aizawa as well are a good example again of Horikoshi writing adults, but writing a different part of adulthood, which is that sort of coping jadedness of living with, you know, the burden of having been an adult and having lived through things and having lived through, in their case, the trauma of losing a friend. And I thought, especially in this arc, and you know, we are counting the Kurogiri happenings as part of this arc. As much as I don't like how the Kurogiri twist is handled in regards to Vigilantes, I do think it makes Present Mike an interesting character. It makes him more, I don't know, just more interesting to follow, because now he's not just a goofy DJ, he's the goofy DJ with, you know, loss anxiety. And to have that manifested here as him, you know, being the one who punches Garaki and who carries him off and who, you know, shatters the laboratory, I think those are really strong character moments. And even if he doesn't get to do much afterwards, you know, the single, like, little panel in the final chapter of this arc where you just see that he's still fighting, I thought was really sweet.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, yes, keep going, Present Mike. Yeah,
he's cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. I was just kind of like, yeah, he's the announcer. It was kind of funny during Sports Festival, but my eyes just kind of glaze over. But I've been, again, this whole arc, and we're about to get to a character I feel like you especially would agree with. There's so many characters in this arc who have just kind of been around for the whole series, and when I would see them, it's just like, it's that guy, whatever. But, you know, I want to see, you know, I'm more interested in, like, Deku talking, or All Might talking, or Aizawa, or actually not Aizawa, but whatever. But now, when I go back and reread the series, I feel like I'm going to have much more appreciation for all these characters, because I know that they were going somewhere, you know? They weren't just gags who were just kind of around and then they never did anything. And I think, especially during that Shirokumo scene, there's so many amazing expressions on Present Mike's face when he's thinking about, like, Aizawa, and you really get that feeling that he is a good friend. Like, he actually is a good person. Obviously he's a hero, but, you know, it's like you said, where it's like, you kind of don't know about him. Like, he's just kind of like, hey, what's up? And you're just like, okay, well, he's just like a joke character. But no, he has depth now. He's a person. And Horikoshi gave him 2 spreads, so I'm not going to forget him. You know?
Sure.
But next up, so this is what I was meaning when I was saying characters who before thought nothing of, but now I'm like, that guy's cool. I like him. Best Genist.
Yeah, Best Genist, as much as I was, like, really worried about him being alive, because I thought, oh, it's gonna make Dabi's speech look really dumb. In the end, that kind of didn't happen, so I can confidently say that I enjoyed his presence in the arc. Like, he's, as you said, he's one of those characters that has been in the series for ages. And for most of the time, he was just kind of goofy, like, haha, look, a man who's pants. But I do have to say, he really earns that, like, number 2 spot, or number 3 spot in this arc, because he is just such a, like, chivalrous and determined guy. He's such a professional as well. And to see that from a character who looks like this, I am very, very happy that we managed to pull it. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna make a video on him or anything like that, but I definitely do appreciate that, again, we just get a competent adult, a professional who is a professional. That's kind of my bottom line.
That's kind of a big thing with this arc, is that, like, I kind of went into the arc thinking, like, oh, this is gonna be the big turning point of not the villains, like, killing everybody and winning, but, like, the villains are gonna, like, come out of the day feeling like like, oh, they're in charge now, or like, oh, we need to watch out for them. So like I thought like, oh, Gigantomachia, we're not gonna actually capture him. We did. So that means that like all of Best Jeanist stuff doesn't feel like, you know, I feel like this is something Horikoshi doesn't actually get enough credit for, which is that you know the tale as old as time in the shonen arc, where you have the characters who kind of buy time for the hero to actually do everything, or they defeat someone, but then it's like, oh, it doesn't really matter later because it comes back, or like this happens, and it just feels like, okay, so the side characters are just kind of there to be like, I like them, they got to do a thing, but they don't actually affect the story, right? They're just kind of there to buy time for the people who really will. But no, Best Jeanist, he stops Gigantomachia. Like, he holds him off long enough for the sedative to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
He halts Dabi from immediately killing Endeavor. He inspires Bakugo in terms of just, like, helping him, like, kind of take things a bit more seriously. Not too much, but just a little bit. And it adds, I don't know, I just really like him. And I especially love when he talks about, like, he's really good at speeches, and like you said, just being, like, a swell guy. Because whenever he talks about, like, you know, this rope that we have could not have been threaded by a single person. No one here today was worthless. Each of them added a strand to this rope, and we will win, because that is what heroes do. I'm like, yes!
Yeah.
Because it's fiber! It's his quirk!
Yeah, and he's just a cool guy. At the end of the day, he's just a cool guy who knows how to do his job. And honestly, I just gotta respect that at the end of the day.
I salute you, so. Speaking of cool guys, Tokoyami. Tokoyami, like I said earlier, he's just Birdman. Like, I don't know about you, but one of the most hype moments of the sports festival, I feel like, is because remember, at this point in the series, you barely know any of the characters. You just kind of see them around. So you're constantly thinking, it's the Horikoshi thing of, ooh, I want that character to do something. This guy has a bird head, and we saw in USJ, maybe he has, like, shadow powers? What's that about? And so you're like, oh, dude, I want to see that guy. So when Deku's assembling his team, and you think, like, he's gonna pick Ida, and Ida says no, it's like, who's he gonna pick? And I'm like, oh my gosh, how cool would it be? And then they don't show you, they're like, they hide it. And then when it comes out and it shows his team, and he pulls out Dark Shadow, so we have a 5th member, it was incredible. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Tokoyami!
It's the Birdman!
It's the bird, and then he wins it for him too. Like, it's the thing I just said, where, like, Deku screwed up. But in that time, Tokoyami, because he's just the cool guy, he was like, hey, don't worry, bro. My dog grabbed it for you. He's a good boy. And we're like, yes! And so, what does he do this arc? He's just a cool guy. He comes in, he's got Thor Ragnarok power, you know, he's got Dark Shadow Ragnarok, he throws it down the thing.
Are you kidding
He's
me?
really expressive and emotive, like he really cares about Hawks, and he's like, Hawks, I'm gonna make you proud. I'm like, yeah, you do you, Birdman. And I just love him. And I love that he keeps his composure against Dabi, but whenever he leaves, he's like crying, and there's like snot coming out of his nose, and he's like, Hawks, you're not dirty, you're a good person, oh. They're like, yeah,
Yeah,
you got it.
I still think it's incredibly impressive that Tokoyami encountered literally his worst matchup in the entire series and walked away almost unscathed. Like, that is a feat. That is really impressive. And again, I just like that he is kind of a low-key character, but he still has a personality. Like, he is, you know, determined. He is relatively courageous, but he's also kind of unsure of himself and what it means to be a hero for him and how he's supposed to use Dark Shadow. And I like that he latches on to Hawks as much as he does, as this mentor figure, even though he says that, you know, Hawks kind of annoyed me for most of my internship, but I still love the guy. And yeah, I just think that that's super, super cool. I also think his presence in the mansion raid is used so well. When he's like, Hawks, I hope you're watching. I'm gonna be a real hero today. And it cuts to Hawks committing a war crime.
Yes, or just the fact that it's just like, you know, it's always fun when you see characters who don't normally interact, and the fact that he's the one to instigate it's not that Kaminari's having a flashback to the fact that he's a cool guy. Tokoyami's like, that's the dude I know. The dude who was like, let's play guitar so we can make this girl happy. You know, like, Kaminari, I like you. I'm like, yeah, we're bros.
Yeah, it just creates these connections, right? It makes them feel like friends, and therefore it makes them feel more like a class. Unless, like, you know, they're just jumbled together group of characters. Like, I know people give Class A a lot of shit because they want every single one of them to have like their Shakespearean arc about humanity.
To be Todoroki levels of
Yeah,
relevance.
and it's like, no, they're a likable group of people who all have a distinct personality, but not all necessitate depth, right? Like, Tokoyami is probably never going to have an incredibly profound character arc, and I'm fine with that. He's cool, he has a distinct personality that shines through when it needs to, and he works for the story, and, you know, I salute him for that, basically.
Next up is Mount Lady. I am just super impressed with Mount Lady. I love that you can actually, like, I think she adds to the adult cast, very much, where you start the series, she's literally supposed to show you, like, some heroes are just here for the money. And normally, I feel like you would think, and then she's gone, like, we never see her again. Like, that was just there for that scene. But no, she is constantly here, she's constantly growing, like you have in the Kamino where she's like, couldn't we have gone with All Might? That would have been more exciting. And then it's like, Best Jeanist, the goat, he says, there's different orders of heroism, what's important. And then she sacrifices her beautiful face for the kids and takes a hit. It's like rescue takes priority. And then you have her little, like, subtle romance with Kamui Woods, which actually, like, you see, like, they're flirting with each other or they're kind of being annoyed, and you have the thing during the pro hero thing where it's like, they might be dating. And then she's like, no comment. Why am I not in the top 10? Blah, blah, blah. And so to see her come to this point where I didn't think Hori was going to do it, because you're like, who could take down Gigantomachia or at least stand a threat? It's like, well, it'd be Mount Lady. It's like, will he do it? Because, you don't have to. But no, like, he gives her, like, 2 spreads of her holding back Gigantomachia and actually holding him back, like, stopping him. Not just like, I'm in the way and I'm a battering ram, Like, she is holding him off, and if she didn't do what she did, if she did not keep getting back up after being thrown around by the biggest monster ever and hold them back, the kids wouldn't have had time to do what they did. Like, she is useful all the way through. She has shown that she has grown, and she gets, like I said, just amazing artwork of her doing her job. And I just think she's funny. Like, I appreciate that she's one of the heroes who has banter while she's fighting, because I don't think, like, because from what we can tell, it's not like her shtick is like, ooh, I like boys. So when she says, like, I haven't been this clingy with a guy since 1st grade, you can tell that she's just trying to, like, lighten the mood and have fun. Or, like, whenever she's like, it's like, this big guy's not going anywhere. She's trying to stay positive. And I like that about her. So, I like I said, another character that before I was like, she's okay. Now I really respect her.
Yeah, she has, like, a really subtle arc that is, small, but trackable. And I do like that the implication of her relationship with Kamui Woods actually makes sense in the context of her becoming more selfless and more, like, more connected to the idea of a hero being self-sacrificing. Because obviously, if there's one thing that would make one reconsider their position in terms of, self-sacrifice and altruism, is it's a human connection. It's a romance. And I like that it's really subtle and not really focused on, because honestly, I don't think we need that. It's fine the way it is, and as you said, I'm really also impressed with how she's handling Gigantomachia. I didn't think she'd have as big of a presence, but then again, I suppose that's on us for thinking Hori would abandon what is essentially the first character he made for MHA, right? Like she was proto Uraraka. So
yeah, I was literally about to say it was proto Uraraka. So just really impressive. Like, Mount Lady, cool. I like you a lot. So also, I just think it's hilarious. Like, you can tell, Hori, he needed this. This arc is full of beautiful artwork and so many spreads. I think I checked, and there's like maybe 6 chapters in this 43 chapter arc that don't have spreads, but otherwise, like, there's spreads all around. And he dedicated a spread to her giant butt about to fall on Batgum. Like, that's the only thing in the shot. Like, it's not like the big panel is just that. Like, okay, Horikoshi.
I mean, let's be real. Hori is one horny motherfucker. Like, I've said this before, but you can literally like pinpoint which arc you're in by looking at how wide Uraraka's hips are. Like, she gets better fed in every arc. It's insane.
Yeah, that's a character arc, Ocean. That's her gaining more money to support not just herself, but her future as a hero by being thicker.
That's her earning more money and therefore being able to actually eat regularly. I see.
Right? Alright, yeah, I was gonna say, so, Momo Yaoyorozu. Once again, another character that Horikoshi has consistently come back to, and I really like that she's a similar character in Todoroki's case, where it's it's not that she, Todoroki has moments where he regresses, which I really like, which, like you mentioned in Sports Festival, where he kind of like, he's, oh, I'm going to use my power, but now I'm not sure. Momo's is more about regressing in terms of progression of her competency, or no, in her progression of, like, Horikoshi giving her wins. So, like, you have her losing in the Sports Festival, then you have her learning more confidence and doing well against Aizawa, but maybe he kind of let her win, but just a little bit. Like, he let the plan go through. It seems like he let the plan go through, and then once the plan activated, he was like, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that. But then you have the joint training arc, where she has, like, a really great plan, which, I know... you plan on talking about joint training eventually, but in joint training, she has this really amazing plan. Like, it's so tiered, and it's like it has like these backstabbing elements of like psychological manipulation, and the only reason she loses is just from something out of her control. But then we come to his, but that's continually happening, which is just that Momo should be one of the most competent characters, but she lacks confidence. She has her confidence. Now she just has to get good. Like that's literally it. It's just get good. And so she's getting good. And then in this arc, I just really love her moment of thinking like, okay, she told us we could run, but like, would a hero really run? And you can see her like thinking, and then she just goes, screw it, Kaminari, you need to do this. Mudman, you need to do this. You need to do this. You know, and she's like, she takes charge, and it feels really cool because it's not that she's completely over her nervousness, but it's not a nervousness of doubt anymore. It's like, do we fight the giant monster? Or do we not? And the fact that she chooses, no, we're gonna do this. And it's got all these stages to the plan. It's got my favorite part is that she put the bombs into the mud so that if he tries to dig, he'll sink even lower. That's great. The timing everything properly, building the giant cannons to try to keep Gigantomachia back. Just Momo as a character, I just think she's really pleasant to like just hear how like kind she is, despite the fact that she's the rich girl character. She's very like earlier on in the thing, she's like, hey Jiro, like she doesn't even say anything to Jiro, and she's just like, don't worry, Kaminari's gonna be fine. And I just really like seeing that in her leadership aspect. So I was really impressed, and the fact that again, I was going into this thinking, okay, that's really cool. She came up with this plan, but it didn't work, right? So what, you know, that kind of sucks. But no, she got Gigantomachia, and that's just great.
Yeah, I think
like that's on her record. That's on her record now. She took down Gigantomachia.
Yeah, to kind of add on to that, because you kind of mentioned most of what I think about her. Like, I absolutely agree. But to add on to that, I also think I really like when Best Genius is holding a speech and he's like, this victory, when they bring Gigantomachia down, this victory could not have been achieved without the help of each and every one of them. And I think that really cements how much impact Momo had in this arc. She literally brought down the Mountain Man. And I think that is just so impressive for a character that, for a long time, was characterized by not knowing what to do. And I also do like, again, that she is present when they find Midnight, because I think that is going to be very, very interesting to see how Hori handles that. Because he'll have to do something with it. So yeah, I mean, you know, if he bothered to show us Uraraka's reaction to Night Eye dying in her, or like being in her arms while he's dying, and then not doing anything with Uraraka, then I'm sure he'll bother to at least show us Momo's reaction.
Yes, of course, that's what I mean. It's like, yeah, something will come of it in terms of like, it won't just be like, they were sad, or at least I would hope not. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Mirko.
The big one. The character who pretty much owes her entire popularity to this arc. Which is really funny to see, actually. Because I remember when she was first shown during Pro Hero, I was weekly back then. People were like, oh, this is a cool bunny girl. But she's only like, you know, she's only gonna be there so that fan artists can make porn of her. Like, she's never going to be relevant.
And Hori said, you're right, but I'm gonna... I'm gonna help you out, and I'm gonna give you some shots you can learn from. He's gonna teach you anatomy. Cause boy, does he draw Mirko.
Yeah, like, Mirko is the most overt he's ever been with his, like, with his preference. I mean, he says it in her character page, and he put her as, like, the amalgamation of everything he likes. And boy, does he like her. Because, man, he literally did not sketch anything other than her for, like, half a year.
It's on Twitter?
Yeah. And I'm kind of shocked we never got a Mirko cover for the volumes. Because I was certain we were gonna get a Mirko.
Oh, you thought he was gonna go all the way and just have her as one of the covers, even though it's like kind of minor, but you know.
She's minor, but she's minor, but the like 5 chapters where she's like just wrecking the Nomus were such a strong start to the arc. Like,
Oh yeah.
that was so good because it's kind of like the Kirishima thing when he first got his like big stuff in Overhaul. When you get a character that feels so minor, get so much shine in such a short amount of time, it creates this impression that that could happen to anyone. We know it can't, but it feels like it could. And I think, you know, that's the whole thing with storytelling, right? It's almost as much about what you make your audience think you're gonna do as much as it is about making, you know, as much as it's about making, actually doing the things they think you're gonna do. Oh no, I'm gone. Wait a second.
Oh, there you are. Okay, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, just the internet, but oh well. But yeah, so Mirko, I'm very happy with her role in the story. I'm happy we got to be like actually strong, competent female character like her. Because I feel like that role was not tapped yet.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
And I like that despite how, you know, Ori draws her very sexily, I do still like the big appeal of her, aside from her ass, is how fucking buff she is and how she'll rip your ass with her legs. I think that's cool. That's cool to have.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine how much he goes into it, because the point is that she like I think this is actually, like, unless I'm mistaken, this is the only real fight, because, you know, there's skirmishes or whatever, but this is the only real fight in the whole series that is pure meathead. Like, he doesn't give her a backstory, he doesn't give her, like, an emotional connection, there's nobody, like, we know that she's interned under, there's no, like, none of it. It's just sex appeal, violence, and you're all here for it.
Yeah.
And like, so to me, it feels like it does, like with Momo, oftentimes it can feel like, because, you know, it's the whole thing of like, why does her design have to be that way? Why does her quirk have to allow so that we can see her giant tits? You know, like, that's just because I would assume at the time he's like, well, I need, you know, the fan service character.
Mm-hmm.
But and he's definitely like, I appreciate that even though that is always the case with her design, it's really just the anime that kind of focuses on it. Like, it's just kind of there in the manga, but it is there. Whereas, like, and so it can kind of be like, this doesn't add to Momo's character, but like the sex appeal of Mirko does add to her character, like in terms of what you're supposed to get out of it. And so, you know, like you said, it's a great way to kick off the arc. And I would say the best thing she does is she instantly makes you. It's that competency of the adults, right? Like, she comes in and she fights 4 high-end Nomus. And she takes one out, and she fights them competently. She loses an arm, like you said with Nejire. Like, you know, and I know, like, she's a different. Mirko's a different kind of like beauty, but like, he messes her up. Yeah, you know. And so yeah, it's everything you said. Like, it's just pure awesome, full of cool. And I totally understand why people like her, even just for all the reasons that are there. And I hope, you know, even if she never does anything ever again, I will never forget her.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you
for
know.
sure. And you know, to speak a bit more of the sex appeal, I do think also her sex appeal out of all the characters is one of the more reasonable ones, because, like, if you look at her outfit, it's like not overly sexualized, like unreasonably. It's literally just, hey, here you have this person who needs her limbs to be able to move freely at all times.
Exactly.
So it's just like, you know, like, for example, one thing I actually do like about her is that she doesn't have, like, a massive cleavage, because that would just not be advantageous. Like, there's no
Yeah, it
reason.
would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I like Mirko. I wouldn't put her as, like, a favorite character of mine, but that 5-chapter stretch was some absolute fuego. So, yeah.
Great way to kick off the arc. Alright, now we get to my girl Mina. I've always loved Mina. I love her design. I love her English voice actor, especially, like, just how peppy she is. I love that she's raccoon eyes to Bakugo. But I just especially love during the Culture Festival where, while Jiro is the character everyone says gets focused, Mina really does get a lot of focus, not in terms of depth or anything, but just letting her personality shine, which is something that Hori usually does a very good job of, but with characters like Kaminari or Tokoyami or Momo, he's given a lot of depth to, and now we're starting to see that depth being inserted into her, where she's kind of giving the Momo treatment. to where she fails, but we care about her enough because of what she did for Deku in training him, what she did for Eri in terms of helping the concert, and just her likable personality. She's just really kind, she's really sweet, she's really fun. The fact that the way Horikoshi is finally giving her depth or setting her up to have depth, and also with Midnight, with the fact that she's the character who says, like, don't worry, Midnight will be alive, so she's gonna feel like she lied, she's gonna feel like she didn't protect Midnight, she's gonna feel like this and that. It's just all this stuff that culminates in, honestly, to me, is one of the most impressive Horikoshi things that Horikoshi's done for a character, is that he has her throw the vial, and then when she hears the voice, it's not that we just get the flashback, or like she goes, ah, because I feel like regardless of if you understand it, I feel like it would kind of feel annoying, right? Because she's another female character, you want her to do something, right? So it's like, Horikoshi, like, come on. But no, when he draws her in her school uniform, and this is a page turn too, I think, and you see her back in her school form, but she's still holding the vial, you get it. Like you feel the terror in her. And I love that she still throws it. Like, it's not that she stops and then Maki moves. Her hand still moves forward. It's just that the slightest hesitation, that little bit of grip moves from her hands. And it's just great to see that it's the same guy who she stood up to before. But going back to that scene, while that was really impressive and heroic, you saw that it scared her, like, and that would stick with someone. In the same, and it makes sense that in the same way that it sticks with Kirishima, it sticks with her, and so now she can have an arc, and she can grow. And I feel like it's not something to where she's starting at a negative, because she's so positive, because she's so likable. And I feel like this only adds to her character, and I'm really happy about that. And also, regardless of if it feels like a pity win or whatever, again, if she did not bring the vial all the way through, if she didn't push away her fear, Kirishima doesn't get the thing in the mouth because Toga knocks out his vial, and he takes hers, and it doesn't feel patronizing to her because she inspired Kirishima, who is now taking that mantle and going forward, and now, again, I would assume she's going to move forward too. I just think that's great, so.
Yeah, I think when people apply the idea of a stolen win to MHA, it kind of makes me cringe a bit, because MHA, more than most shonen, I feel like, really lives out the whole cooperation angle. And I think this war arc is also a great example, where you have a lot of characters cooperating and giving each other, like, the slightest inches of, like, the victory ground, right? And this is a great...
One thread.
Yeah, and this is a great example of that. Like, her moment, Kirishima's moment, it develops both of them, and I think that that's a really well-executed character moment. I also love her Acid Man move. I think her using that to get through Davi's wall of flames is just such a fucking Kino moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm liking that. This is like a general thing, but this is where I noticed it while the arc was going on. I'm liking how we're getting distinct fighting styles from these kids. Like, I'm liking how, even though they all are making, like, ultimate moves for themselves, they're not all the same. Like, they're not just my quirk, but bigger. Like, her move is my quirk applied in a way that I usually don't apply it to. Like, her usual appliance is shooting acid, but Acid Man is the first time she acknowledges the fact, hey, wait a minute, I'm immune to my acid. So, and I can make, like, an armor out of it. So, I think that it's cool that we're getting these, like, little diversities, it's nothing you could fill a wiki with, but I think I prefer this, honestly, because it makes it lightweight, but still there and, nice.
Yeah, so that's the last scene. I'm actually going to postpone this next character. I want to save him for last because, there's a bit of... Actually, no, because I don't want to end on a negative note. Let's talk about him now. I was gonna say, like, well, we're on a positive streak, so let's end on this character who it's a bit iffy, but actually, let's get that out of the way now so we can keep the positive train going.
Yeah, so
long term.
all for one.
Yes. I'll let you go, because like I told you, and I'll explain it later, I've kind of come to terms with him for now, but I think you'll express a lot of the things that a lot of people are feeling.
I mean, honestly, I've kind of been more accepting of him in this reread. I think my opinion on him was very much mirrored by the fact that every single chapter he appeared, I was worried, oh my god, is he going to use Shiggy as a meat puppet? Is this where the story is going? Because if All For One's end goal, and I'm gonna say this here, I've said this multiple times before, if All For One's end goal was to manufacture Shiggy into a meat puppet, that is trash. That is incongruous with how...
Terrible.
That's incongruous with how his plan has been presented. It goes completely against the fact that he was so invested in Shiggy's emotional development, because really, why do you want your meat puppet to have good feelings, right?
And a leader.
Yeah, a leader, exactly.
Because I've seen some people say, like, oh, somehow, like, because think how convoluted this is. Oh, he knew that, like, when he transfers his quirk to Shigaraki, that the hatred of Shigaraki will allow him to have more control over him. How would he know that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that whole theory is garbage, like most MHA theories. And I think my opinion of him was very much sullied by the fact that every single chapter I was worried that we were just going to get the confirmation of that. However, the arc's over, and funnily enough, while Shiggy did get meat puppeted, honestly, everything about the way he gets meat puppeted kind of deconfirms the theory, which is really ironic. But like,
Yeah.
you know, especially the moment All For One says, "Let's go get my real body," I was like, okay, I'm gonna reread this guy and I'm gonna like him more. Because at that point it's pretty clear there's no way he wants Shiggy as a permanent body, because in that case, why bother with his real body? And especially since the vestige is separate from the main body.
Yeah, they don't share like a hive mind. Because when All For One said he wanted to get out of prison before, I was like, oh, you know, physically. But then when we had the vestige, like, oh, okay, so it's through the vestige. I don't know if I like that, but no, that's not the case. They are separate entities. So the real All For One cannot get into Shigaraki unless he somehow has a body swap quirk that we never knew about, and for some reason he decided, hey, why don't I, and you know, he didn't think, hey, why don't I just go to like some random like hobo on the street, take his body so I'm not in my potato head body, and then just wait for Shigaraki to be ready. Like,
Yeah.
so,
But yeah, I am glad that we got that resolution in the end. And on this reread, I did find his presence a lot more tolerable. Like, I do think he interferes a bit too much, because I would have wanted this to be Shigaraki's arc more than anything else, and it kind of stopped being that halfway through, when All For One started really meddling. But aside from that, I do appreciate that he brings that element of extra fear and of, you know, patronizing meddling to Shigaraki. And I like that this will probably play a role in Shigaraki's, you know, further development.
oh yeah.
However, I will say though, I do need All For One to die soon. He has outlived his welcome, in my opinion. He is just not useful to the plot anymore. All he's doing is giving me anxiety. I need him gone. Basically.
My last thing I would add, because I agree with everything, is I just think he's really funny. Like, you tell me, how do you start off as like, oh, he's the man behind the chair? You come into the story, and your first real appearance is you get your butt kicked and sent to jail, and from then on you only get cooler. Because ever since he's been in that stupid prison, and we find out like, oh, he has his hand in this thing, or oh, he did this malicious thing, or he literally tells All Might, who's just like, how is it that you're just like this evil guy? Like, what did you want? It's like, dude, are you stupid? I have all the power in the world. I just wanted to be evil. Why is that hard for you? What? Are you dumb? Why is that hard for you to understand? Like, he's just so snarky. He's so funny. The fact that he's in the vestige world and he's like, hey, Shigaraki, isn't that really funny? That's like your dead grandma. What a loser, am I right? And I don't know. The more he's in the series, the more I love him. But I agree with you that I do need his characterization to be confirmed. I need to make sure that he's still... I don't need him to care about Shigaraki. I just need him to understand... I need all the stuff he said to be true. Like, obviously he's manipulating the kid. Duh. Like, you know. And it's a very twisted sense of, like, affection, if the affection is real, right? But I just need that to pay off. And if he does... he'll honestly be one of my favorite villains in the series, because I love, it's how I describe it, deliciously evil villains. Who, you know, you have your characters with depth, you have your characters who are evil but they got reasons and blah blah blah, or you have your characters who are kind of chaotic but it comes from trauma or something. All For One
Lucky.
literally said to his brother,
That was risky.
hey, you like comic books, you liked the hero, I just kind of like the villain and wanted to see him win, so I'm gonna be that. Like...
Yeah,
he just loves that he's he just loves that he's evil. He's licking his lips, he's chewing the scenery, he's clasping his hands.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah. I do think, though, him caring about Shigaraki is kind of off the table with the last chapter. Because, like, his thing, it's my turn now and my turn will never be over, definitely gives me the vibes that if he doesn't want Shigaraki's body, he definitely wants to keep controlling him for the rest of their cooperation. Like, I don't think he ever wants Shiggy to be completely independent. He just wants Shiggy to be independent enough where he doesn't have to babysit him all the time. I think that's the gist of it.
And that's fine, like I said, because he's pure evil.
Hopefully I don't die but before I get to him.